Good morning. I am Kai, and together with me are Ken, Luna, and Ari. We will be talking about the Harvard simulation and our first-hand experiences. On today's agenda, we first have cross-cultural behavior. Second will be our roles and experiences. Third will be our takeaways and learnings. And last will be our conclusion and recommendations. First off, we'd like to share with you a book that was shared with us by our professor, Mam Kunanan. The book Cross-Cultural Business Behavior, written by Richard Jesland, provides insights and guidance for people who work across cultures, highlighting the importance of understanding cultural differences in communication styles, values, and behaviors in order to work effectively with people from different cultural backgrounds.
It covers topics related to cross-cultural business behavior, such as communication patterns, cultural values, negotiation styles, decision-making processes, and leadership styles.
We were able to align the lessons of this book with what we learned from our experiences during the Harvard Global Collaboration Simulation. The simulation puts the players in a virtual global team environment where they are tasked with completing a project with team members from different cultural backgrounds. Players must navigate cultural differences in communication styles, decision-making processes, and work styles, while also dealing with other challenges such as time zone differences and language barriers.
The simulation is designed to be engaging and interactive, providing players with immediate feedback and opportunities for reflection and learning. And today, we will be sharing that experience with you.
Again, I am Kai, and I was assigned as the communications director, a non-native English speaker. At the start of the simulation, I felt apprehensive, unsure of how my language skills would be perceived. Initially, I attributed the delay in sending messages to a computer lag, but later realized that it was part of the simulation. It took me twice as long to compose a message when typing in English, but when communicating with the chief finance officer, who was also a non-native English speaker, I found it easier to communicate. I became so engrossed in our conversation that I forgot to switch back to English to ensure that the CEO and director of operations could understand me. Through this experience, I learned that good communication requires patience, especially when speaking with individuals who do not speak English as their first language. Although it may take more time for them to articulate their thoughts clearly, with mutual understanding and a shared goal, effective communication is always possible.
I'm Ken, and I was assigned as a Chief Finance Officer. And I too was a non-native English speaker. Being a non-native English speaker, I found it way easier and seamless to interact with fellow non-English speakers. It took a great deal of time for me to compose my sentences in English, and this has caused frustrations on my end in getting my message across. As a CFO, I realized that my message was quite concise and could be relayed in 2 sentences. CFOs, although faced with complex algorithms and numbers, usually arrive at simple conclusions, and sometimes it could be a yes or no decision. I think next time, a simple and concise 2 sentence or 1 paragraph explanation would have sufficed. I didn't need to go around bush and should have gone straight to the point.
I'm Luna, and I was assigned as the director of operations, a native English speaker. It was easy to communicate with the CEO since she was also an English speaker. It was very difficult to understand what the non-native English speakers were trying to say, which caused a delay in getting answers to the questions. Given the 15-minute time limit, I honestly ended up ignoring what the non-native English speakers were saying because it was coming out as gibberish. Instead, I tried answering the questions given the information that I had. I felt helpless given the time limit. I didn't know how I was going to communicate with them. I think the best solution really is to give the non-native English speakers time. They need time to be able to understand or translate what we're saying, and we may need time to translate what they're saying as well.
I'm Ari, and I was assigned as the Chief Executive Officer, a native English speaker. As the CEO, it is my responsibility to gather input from each member in order to come up with the answers. While I was successfully able to gather the insights of the native English speaker, the non-native English speaker's messages came across to me as gibberish. Although I made an effort to understand what they were trying to convey, most of their messages were simply too confusing, which led me to dismiss their suggestions. I ended up only considering the insights of the native English speaker, who I could easily understand, and dismissing those of the non-native English speakers. This highlights how language barriers can hinder the completion of tasks and cause some members' ideas to be disregarded. From this, I realized the importance of effective leadership and cultural sensitivity. Leaders must work on their ability to facilitate effective communication amongst members, to manage cultural differences in communication styles, decision-making processes, and work norms, and to be more understanding of other situations so as to foster an inclusive environment.
Thank you for that, Ori. And having said all of this, we have 4 key takeaways that we would like to share with all of you. The first is how cultural differences impact communication. The simulation highlights how cultural differences can impact communication, such as differences in communication styles, attitudes towards hierarchy, and indirect communication. Players should learn to adapt to their communication styles to the preferences of their colleagues and to pay attention to nonverbal cues.
The second is that building relationships is key. The simulation emphasizes the importance of building relationships with colleagues from different cultures. Players learn that taking the time to get to know their colleagues and to understand their cultural backgrounds can help to build trust and facilitate effective collaboration.
The third is to embrace diversity. The simulation encourages players to embrace diversity and recognize the value of different perspectives. Players learn to appreciate the unique strengths and contributions of their colleagues from different cultures.
And last is the importance of adapting to different work styles. The simulation highlights how different cultures may have different work styles and approaches to problem solving. Players learn to be flexible and to adapt to the preferences of their colleagues in order to achieve the best outcomes.
The simulation is definitely a valuable tool for anyone looking to improve their cross-cultural competence and prepare for global business environments. We thank Harvard Business School for making this available for those interested, as well as Ma'am Kunanan for giving us the opportunity to impart in this activity.
Through this experience, we learned the importance of being concise and straightforward when under time pressure and when navigating through cultural differences and language barriers.
It is best to get straight to the point and to use simple vocabulary. A one-sentence to one-paragraph summary can often suffice.
By focusing on the most essential information and omitting unnecessary details, we can effectively engage in cross-cultural communication. Thank you.